want to talk Super Bowl too.
Yeah, it's true. Welcome back to the Old Bull Young Calf Boston Sports Podcast. And we are once again on the outside looking in. Super Bowl impending this coming weekend. The Old Bull just brought it up. We're probably going to touch on that towards the end because there has been some jaw dropping news. Something I don't know, Dad, personally, right? Just total anecdote. I don't know if a trade has ever surprised me as much as the Luka Doncic to the Lakers trade. And from a Boston Celtics standpoint, there's a lot to think about here. Most of it doesn't affect us. There's some wins, there's some, moral victories, and then there's some what the F sucks the Lakers getting better. We'll talk about that. And also whatever anybody else brings to the table. So first impression, Dad, you wake up. I don't know when you wait. Was it at night you saw the trade? I text you, right?
Yeah, so before we start, I just want to give a shout out
Oh yeah,
to
true.
William McCormick. If you need a therapist in the Pinellas County area in Florida, he is the best you will find out there. Look him up. Also, Moonlight Boba Teas. My beautiful girlfriend Sidavon, hers in St. Pete, Florida. Also, great job. Great taste and flavors there. Plenty of pho as well. And also my cousin Abigail, Sip and Share. Is that what it
Sip and
is? In
savor. Sip and
Grafton.
savor.
Sipped and Savor, sorry about that, little cuz in Grafton, Massachusetts. Again, we don't get paid for any of these endorsements. We just like to do it to help all small businesses. If you have one, let us know. We just ask you like and comment in YouTube. So
Yeah, and
going down
uh
is yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Dad. Oh, so as it relates to like the therapy, if Will moves his therapy to Dallas right now, I think he would make an absolute killing because those guys
Oh,
are in complete shambles. I know so many I know one Mavericks fan, he's depressed. And I've watched a lot of Mavericks standing outside that stadium. They are beyond depressed. So, first impression, Dad, you as a Boston Celtics fan, what do you got on this trade?
I said to myself, this is probably the biggest trade in NBA history. And
Wow.
sure enough, that's what everyone else was calling it after it. Uh, and biggest is probably not the right word. I would say maybe the worst trade in NBA history, the most
Worst trade.
perplexing one.
Perplexing, I
It
think, is
is.
a
It's
better word.
just so bad. This trade is so bad on so many different levels, and make no mistake about it. This is good news for the Celtics short term, right? I mean, can you imagine if Luka went to OKC or Minnesota or anyone, like these
Milwaukee,
other
yeah.
teams that
Denver,
have the assets to load up and add a Luka with losing very little because they have so many draft picks and they have like some good starters that they can give back to Dallas in return. So the damage is minimal. He's going to an aged Lakers team with an old LeBron who's still good, don't get me wrong, but you know, their defense, which was already suspect to begin with, at 21st in the league with Anthony Davis, one of the best defensive centers in the league, just turned to complete dumpster juice with
yeah.
Luka. So they're not championship contenders. They're not going to win the championship. This is good short term news for the Celtics. It's kind of just bad long term news, though, for the rest of the league because the Lakers, once LeBron retires in the next couple of years, they're going to be complete garbage and irrelevant. They were just going to literally have to start over and get in the
Correct.
tankathon probably for 3 or 4 years. Now they have Luka. They have that Los Angeles lure of free agents that just like to go there. So free agents are going to want to go there, not just because it's the Lakers in Los Angeles, but because Luke is there.
Yeah, you nailed it. I think when it comes to the trade, I think that is probably, and I think this will go down in history as the most perplexing, confusing trade in NBA history. It really seems like somebody gave my son the GM role for the Mavericks, and he just did something because it's something like a 7-year-old would do. I don't understand how Nico, whatever his name is, just reaches out to the Lakers 3 weeks ago, says, "Hey, you want to talk trades?" And somehow Luka Doncic gets in there. Bill Simmons came out today, Bill Simmons podcast. He mentioned that Palinka convinced Nico that taking on Luka was such a risk because of his conditioning and injury history. and then shipped Anthony Davis. He actually originally had this trade with some more first round picks in it. That first round pick they had, the Dalton Connect kid, or the second round pick Dalton Connect, who hit like 10 threes in one game this year, hasn't really done much else. They had him in there. That guy got removed. They didn't get Austin Reeves. I don't understand this. And like my dad said, the short term, I think both these franchises have now dropped off the radar. And I don't think there were really any threat. I didn't see either of these teams getting out of the West. The Mavericks getting out of the West last year was an absolute gift because we blew them out of the water. They had the best backcourt in NBA history, right? I don't know. I know we heard that after they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves. We blew them out 4-1. I wasn't concerned about them this year. I was kind of hoping to play them again, but both teams are pretty much out of it. It does suck that the Lakers, again, find a way to stay relevant. It's like every century, this team needs to find a way, and now they have Luka Doncic. And I mean, if I'm Luka Doncic, I haven't thought about it. I just dawned on me now. Are you 100% signing with the Lakers next year, Dad? Or are you going to shop your options? Because at this point, the Supermax is gone. I think from a player standpoint, I think it'd be irresponsible of Luka Doncic to not look around the league and say, okay, I'm getting the same contract no matter where I go, right? Where can I go and play with who I want to play with and not play with an aging LeBron, no center? If you're Luka Doncic, do you even consider that?
Yeah, I mean, why not? The Lakers can't offer you any more money than anyone else can now that he lost out on that Supermax after being traded. Matt, it's just unbelievable. It would be irresponsible of him not to look around. I hope he doesn't. I hope he does sign long term with the Lakers. Because again,
Oh, I know.
they have LeBron, and that's it now. I mean, that's not enough. I'm sorry. I'd be much more concerned if he went to San Antonio, OKC, or an Orlando. Like, oh my God, can you imagine if he joined forces with those young stars on those teams? And get it, listen, nobody crapped on Doncic's physical shape he's in, his defense more than these two guys right here in
Oh,
the
yeah.
finals last year. But make no mistake about it, that dude is, I mean, he's probably the best scorer of the ball in the league as far as just putting the ball in the basket.
Him or Trae Young,
And
those two are really
basketball.
special at that. But yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, he is a sieve defensively. He does run into injuries,
Conditioning.
probably having to do with carrying that extra weight. But Matt, what if he's only 25? What if the day comes he smartens up and he just shows up to training camp 1 year in shape?
Yeah, I completely
I mean,
agree.
that's going to improve his defense. That's going to improve everything about him. He's going to be even better at scoring. He's going to be quicker and all of that stuff. So, at a 25, that's still possible for him to do that. So, this whole thing is bizarre. Dallas, you better win the championship in the next 2 years because that is probably your window. And if you don't, yeah, you'll be known as not just making the worst basketball trade in history, but maybe the worst sports trade in history.
Yeah, and I mean, the biggest FU, right? And oh man, there's so much here. Number one, Anthony Davis. Nobody's talked about Anthony Davis. Do you recall what Anthony Davis's dad said about the Boston Celtics when we didn't sign Isaiah Thomas long term? Do you recall that?
Hmm.
He
Oh
said
yeah, I
he said he
remember.
doesn't want his son to go there. There's no loyalty. That organization did Isaiah Thomas dirty, blah 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 blah. Do you think we're going to get any comment from Anthony Davis's dad on what the Lakers just did to him? Because the Lakers did him dirty. The Lakers flipped him pretty much 1-for-1 for Doncic and sent him into the void. I mean, the Mavericks are not going to be a capable team. And from a free agent standpoint, who's going to want to go there? Doncic made it clear in his farewell letter. He even mentioned the fact that he anticipated retiring a Maverick. I mean, from a fan perspective, that's heartbreaking, right? You have this 25-year-old superstar who brought you to the finals, whether he brought you there with defense or not, doesn't matter. And he's saying that he wanted to be there long term, and your team flipped him for a guy 6 years older who's just as injury prone, right? And from a player standpoint, what that did to him financially. So now this is Doncic. He was set to earn 345 million, supermax contract. next year. I think he could sign it. He now goes to the Lakers, who could only offer him uh, 4 years, 200 something million to 210 million. But the reality is, he's not even going to sign that contract. What he's going to end up signing he's either going to sign with the Lakers for 2 years plus 2 years, and I think a player option, and that'll make him re-eligible for the Supermax, or he'll go to another team and have to sign 3 years plus 1 so that he can get the Supermax there. So he's not even going to be locked up with the Lakers for more than 2 years. This adds so much complexity and is the biggest FU. I don't know if I've ever seen in the NBA an FU on this. Maybe in all sports, an FU on this level to the player. I mean, if you're Luka Doncic, how do you feel about this trade, Dad? Knowing all the numbers that he just got screwed out of, all the guarantees.
I mean, to both players, the FU is applied. And you won't hear from Anthony Davis's father unless Anthony Davis does not want to go to Dallas, did not want to leave LA, did not want to leave LeBron. If he's cool with this trade, you won't hear from the dad. But yeah, I mean, one way or another, though, he's going to lose money, but Doncic will make up for a lot of it being in LA. It's just a bigger market than Dallas, Hollywood, all that stuff. He's going to be an enormous star there. He's already the number one guy. He instantly moves ahead of LeBron. And yeah, I don't know. We'll see if he stays there. If he wants to win a championship, he'll leave. He's not winning a championship with just LeBron. That's all there is to it. And they just don't have the other pieces around him. So,
Yeah,
but and the one thing I want to point out is everyone is piling on this Dallas GM. I'm sorry. To me, the owner deserves just as much, if not more, blame. He had to have gone to the owner before making this trade. It's not Mark Cuban anymore. Mark Cuban doesn't have
it's
really any say
Miriam
in that.
something.
He's like
Miriam
a
something.
he's like a minor, yeah. So Cuban's like a minority owner now. How does the owner, even if he's not like a professional basketball analyst, has knowledge, even if he had, how does he not look at just the sheer numbers and go, wait a minute, Luke is 26, has been considered a top 5 player in the league for 4 straight years, and we're giving up a guy who's 6 years older, almost 32 years old, has really never been considered a top 5 player in the league. Anthony Davis is probably considered a top 10 guy for most of his career, but Anthony Davis has really never been a top 5 guy. So you're getting a guy who's not even top 5, who's just as injury prone, and almost 7 years older. How does the owner not step in and go, whoa, whoa, whoa,
There we
easy
go.
there, Kimusabi. Easy
That,
there,
this
Kimusabi.
is how you put a tinfoil hat on and you realize that this owner has about 35 billion in net worth tied up in Vegas. And everybody knows where the next franchise is going. Now, there's a lot of complexity here, but I'm sure this owner wants to move to Vegas. And one of the ways you can do that is by getting in the good favor of Adam Silver in the commissioner's office. And the best way to do that is by taking their media darling, either the Knicks or the Lakers, and trading Luka Doncic there, keeping that team relevant for the long term. I mean, I'm really curious, at least from a ratings metrics, where this goes from here. The only curveball is that the Mavericks are kind of no joke when it comes to fan participation. I think they had like top 5 attendance in the league.
Yeah.
They're overall very a very attractive franchise. So I'd be shocked if it actually happened, but you never know. We'll see what happens with this Lakers. I'm sorry, with this Las Vegas franchise. I can't believe this person did this. They basically tanked their franchise's value on a huge scale. They just bought this franchise for a few billion. There's no way it's worth the same amount of money at this point. And I was saying, like, maybe they can add Jimmy Butler, maybe they could do this, maybe they could do that. But the reality is nobody's going to want to go there after what they just did to Luka. The players aren't dumb. They see what's happening in the league. They see what they just did to Luka Doncic. I don't see how they can take Kyrie Irving, who was really only happy there because Luka Doncic is there. So we'll see what Kyrie does now. Anthony Davis, who again was sent there on a flyer, And then Klay Thompson, who again is only there because of Luka Doncic. I think the Mavericks in a year or two, I think they're in almost the Washington Wizards territory at this point. Free agents aren't going to want to go there, and I mean they're going to have to land some rookies. But even then, what's the hope there? The rookies 75% of what you already had with Luka Doncic. Oh man,
It's a
this
fun conspiracy theory, and we'll be able to circle back to the show years from now if they somehow do end up in Vegas,
oh
the
yeah,
Dallas franchise, or even if they push hard for it. You'd be able to, you and whoever else, would be able to give yourself a pat on the back, a win on that. I just don't see how that's possible.
yeah.
It's
It's
not
probably
like
not
you
possible.
said, Matt. Dallas is like they have so much support, fan support. It's not like they have half empty stadiums like some of these NBA teams go through when they stink. Dallas is they're banging it out every night, selling out. The fan interest is huge there. They'll be pissed and they'll probably still show up to the games, and they might even be a little better this year with Anthony Davis over Luka because their defense is instantly going to be better. They're probably going to have to trade Lively and Gafford to get other pieces. But I mean, if they're better, they're not going to be better by much. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like it's good and bad for the Celtics, which
Yeah,
is the Lakers were going to go through a long drought where they were going to be terrible for a long time because no free agent was going to go there with once LeBron retired. There just wasn't going to be any. And now, if they can keep Luka long term, if they talk him into staying for that 4 years,
yeah,
they're going to be resetting when LeBron's out, and they're going to be relevant. Whether they're ever championship contenders, probably not if Luka doesn't get his act together defensively and get in shape. But yeah, it keeps them relevant for a long time. But Matt, as
yeah.
far as the Celtics go, does this end concern you anymore? I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Is the Lakers? I mean, if could we get a Celt? You don't think you can get a Celtics Lakers championship?
Oh man, I'm sure Scott Foster is going to get paid a decent amount of money to try and make that happen, but I don't think it's
Oh,
possible. I think this trade, and we haven't even touched on the De'Aaron Fox trade, Zach Levine, all those teams in that 7 to like 12 range in the West are just shifting deck chairs on the Titanic. They're I don't see how this moves the needle for any of the teams this year. The Mavericks are right now ninth. The Kings are 10th. They just added Levine. They're basically making the Chicago Bulls in the West. The
I
Chicago
know.
Bulls sucked in the East, so good luck. They have DeMar DeRozan and Zach Levine back together, and that team did absolutely nothing. Except the only difference is they have Sabonis, which is very similar to Vucevic. They're not the exact same player, but they're kind of similar.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you have the Spurs who again Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox. I guess they got probably the only decent guy in the draft last
And
year, and
draft picks.
yeah,
That's a good trade for the Spurs, man. Them and OKC. I am glad they are both in the other conference
yeah,
because they're gonna be good. Let those two slug it out for years and years to come. I'm nice and comfy in the Eastern Conference where the Celtics are, where really the only young and up and coming team we have to worry about is Orlando.
yeah. And I mean the trade deadline is this Thursday, and just like it is every year, we're really hopeful that there there's an arms race right now in the that 7 to 12 range in the West, and we need to hope that doesn't start happening in the East up top because I'm still not afraid of this Cavaliers team. I'm not afraid of this Knicks team. Not afraid of any of these teams. The Bucks on a 3-game losing streak. The Pacers, I mean, they play hard, but I don't see them beating us long term. So, man, the West is an absolute war zone. And that's why every year you hear the rumblings towards the end of the season, like, oh, maybe we should do, the top 16 teams, not the East and West, blah, blah. I'm glad the Celtics aren't over there because I think there's a lot of teams over that are sneaky, sneaky good. I mean, the Grizzlies have been giving everybody a hard time. The Grizzlies beat us in our house.
Houston,
Yeah, Houston.
Houston.
Houston's a tough team. Houston
It's
has
a-
no
it's
offense,
gonna be a
but
slog. I
yeah,
mean, a slobber knocker. Like all these teams battling. Good luck. The Eastern Conference is going to get one beat up team most likely by the time whoever comes out on top meets in the finals against that side. That's for sure. So hopefully it's our Celtics.
yeah. And overall, like my dad said, as long as OKC doesn't get any major free agents, The Rockets, I think the Rockets are some offensive talent away from being a real serious contender. Their defense is legit. Um,
Yeah.
I think uh, right now, like their offense is very stagnant, really weird. But man, I am glad we're over here. Uh, big win. Uh,
Last night
yeah, Jason Tatum.
by the Celtics.
Jason Tatum, he's his, as the kids say, aura. Have you heard that phrase, Dad? Aura.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's yeah, your universe
not me, not me.
and
I'm
the vibes, yes.
Vibes is old. Vibes is very old. No, aura is new.
Energy. The old bull knows all this hip stuff. Don't
Yeah.
listen. I got to teach you a thing or two. Okay.
Listen, I don't know
I got.
much of
We
this
can
stuff,
work on your energy. All right, your energy.
but I'll tell you this: Jason Tatum's aura right now is off the charts, and that game winner against, of course, the ailing who was that? The Pelicans. The game winner against the Pelicans. They were down still, ice cold, and then last night we go into the fourth quarter. Before the fourth quarter, everyone is writing the death certificate to the Boston Celtics. What does Jason Tatum do? He puts the 76ers in his place. And I mean, I think that what makes him one of the great Celtics. Whenever he plays the 76ers, that guy just hits another level. Chris Middleton does it to us. And,
Yeah.
freaking Gabe Vincent and the other guy for the 76ers that's now on the 76ers, I forget what his name is, the twin, Caleb Martin. Jason Tatum does that with the 76ers. They have to check under their bed for that guy because sure enough, in
He's
the
in their
fourth quarter,
nightmares.
yeah,
Oh
he is
yeah.
inevitable. And again, he just looked bored. That go ahead three, he makes the go ahead three in Yabusele's face, right? In their house, the crowd goes nuts for him in their house, and he just runs back. Just looks bored out there. I absolutely love it. I love the energy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not afraid for this team. I'm afraid for whoever faces us. That is absolutely for sure.
Well, it'd be nice if him, Tatum, Derek White, Jalen Brown get more of a consistent 3-point stroke back. It's coming and going. Like again, Derek White had some huge threes at the end of that game last night. But he's had some games like this where it looks like he's gonna get back to his old self, and then the next game he goes 0 for 6 from three.
So Derek White right now in his last 10 is 40% from three, which is a major improvement.
It is, but it feels like
He starts
he
cold and
has
then
these games where he's back, and then all of a sudden next game he's like 0 made or 1 made, and just be nice to get back to that consistency. That's really why they were the runaway train they were last year. They were pretty consistent throughout the whole year. They did plenty of load management last year too, sitting guys, and they still had, what was it, 63, 64 wins. And
yep.
it was because they were consistent, and they're not on pace for that this year, and that's the reason why. It's simply their 3-point shooting just hasn't been where it's been. So it'd just be nice 30 games away from the playoffs to start seeing that consistency come back to form.
Yeah, I mean, just in the last 10, Porzingis is at 50% from three. Drew
He's
Holiday's
been
at
awesome from
38%.
three.
Drew
Yep.
Holiday's at 38. I mentioned Derek White's at 40. Let me check Tatum's. Brown's at 32, which is, of course,
Brown's not good. Yeah.
Tatum's is 35.
Yeah.
So,
So, we just
yeah,
need them to get it up. Hopefully
yeah,
that last game last night is what does.
yeah. And I mean, getting to the hoop overall, man, I love watching Celtics basketball. It's really a joy. Now, I think that's a good transition. We don't got anybody in the chat. We're 23 minutes in. Transition into the Boston Bruins, right? Speaking of the opposite of fun to watch, this Boston Bruins team cannot make up their mind, right? I mean, they have us in such a weird spot. I don't know what the equivalent is, Dad, but we feel like we're on the knife's edge. I don't know what fan base this is, but right now we are number 6 in the Atlantic, and we have more games played than pretty much everybody, which is not a good
Wait, what
sign.
about no? What are we in the conference?
In the conference, so the
I
Eastern
believe we're
Conference.
ninth.
I mean, we are out of the wild card right now.
Yeah.
We are. So there's 3 teams in the Atlantic, 3 teams in the Metropolitan. Then it's the Red Wings at 59 points, 53 games. Blue Jackets at 59 points, 53 games. And then the Lightning and us are tied with 58. Lightning have 3 less games than us, right?
Oh,
My dad,
everybody does, Matt. That
yeah,
those numbers are we're not really on the knife's edge. we're we're a decent amount out of the playoffs just because of this map. There's so many teams with games in hands that are around us. You're also forgetting about the Rangers. Don't think the Rangers are just going away. That team is loaded. They just made another trade to get even
Yep.
better. That I'm telling you, the Rangers are going to factor in. So that's another team you can throw in front of the Bruins because I'm not. I'm willing to bet that the Rangers close out the year stronger than the Bees. It's just and there's so many other teams around them. Montreal's not out of it. Like there's just too many, and the Bruins are too up and down, mostly down, and it's so bad. And another week gone by, another week with no trades, another week gone by, another week where Sacco's still the coach, and it's just still status quo. Nothing to see here, folks. It's like every time we lose 2 games, and I'm like, yes, when is the hammer going to come down? When are we going to get the news? Sweeney's gone. Sacco's gone. Major trade. We're retooling. The Bruins win this one meaningless game like they did the other day against Pittsburgh or whatever it was, or the Rangers. And it's like, oh, here we go again. It just saves everybody for a little bit longer. Oh, well, maybe they're about to turn it around. Let's see. And, they'll probably end up losing the next 2 games.
Yeah. And I mean, tonight's a big game for them, right? They have Ottawa and Nashville going at it. And this is the situation we've been put in, right? This team can't find its identity, whether it's going to give time to the young guys and develop them, or is it going to fight and claw for every single win? And my dad said he wants certain people gone in the front office, and he's willing to concede. And I know it hurts him to say he's willing to concede a playoff spot for it. It's like we don't even have a choice at this point. We don't even get to say we will concede a playoff spot because it's just going to get ripped from our hands. So. And almost none of this feels good. It doesn't seem like we're getting better in almost any area. It does seem nice that that Swayman's been playing good, but he also laid that huge egg against Buffalo. I think that Buffalo game is a major indictment on how bad this team is because we needed that game. You
Buffalo's
just
so
won
bad.
two.
They
You
stink.
just won 2 in a row.
Yeah.
You got to beat Buffalo. I mean, that's 2 more points, especially when you're in this kind of race. The team didn't get up for it at all. It's like they said, you know what? We got our points in these last 2 kind of, tougher games, more important games. Let's just coast. And they got their doors blown off. 7 goals against Buffalo is just embarrassing. So here we are, hoping that another team poops their pants because, the Bruins have done it far too much this year. And I mean, we had that Rangers game. It looks like Marchand 19 minutes, Pastrnak 20 minutes, Elias Lindholm 20 minutes. McAvoy's back
What
from injury. He had 25. And
what
so I
did
mean,
Poitras have? Because it
Poitras
looked like he got some time with Pasta, and he actually had 2 assists.
Poitras had 12 minutes and 33
Not
seconds.
enough.
So
Ugh,
not enough at all. 19
I don't
shifts.
like
That
that
is
one bit.
19 shifts. That's 5 less than Morgan Geeky. That is 7 less
Oh,
than
great.
Charlie Coyle. Is 6 less than Pavel Zaka. So I don't know what they want this kid to do. He did get 30 seconds of power play time on ice, which
Ooh.
is
Oh, that's how kind of the Bruins to
yeah,
do that.
yeah. But
But he had 2 great passes the other day to Pasta. I mean, I don't
yeah,
know. I, I mean, I don't think they're going to move Zaka off center with Pasta. I mean, so I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't know if that's permanent or what. But I mean, I guess at least they're giving the kid time. I just, Geeky. I think he's come back down to earth the last couple of games. I don't know. He looked like he was a 40-goal scorer. Everyone's getting hyped up about that, and it's like, don't get fooled by that. That dude's not scoring in the playoffs. Don't worry about that. Zaka's another one. We all know he can't score in the playoffs. 1 goal in his entire playoff career, and that's a lot of games.
that's a
Dude
lot of
has like
games.
20 playoff games. So, a lot of fool's gold there. They're supposed to be getting Lindholm back soon, and they're probably going to squeak in, Matt. They're probably going to squeak in, and that I'm telling you is just bad news. It keeps Sweeney around. They'll probably still get rid of Sacco, but I mean, if they squeak in and they think he did a good job, There's no guarantee they get rid of Sack. All the Bruins are loving their complacency. They love to be just sit still, see what happens. They don't make any ballsy moves whatsoever. That's just not Sweeney and Neely style. They're all, they go too far with the patience. Too far with the patience. Meanwhile, you're wasting good years with young prospects. The very few you have, you don't give them enough chances. And, you know, they ended up, they end up, not being confident and possibly end up being busts. That Lysol kid, he's probably a lost cause at this point. He's down there probably thinking, what do I need to do to get my shot? It's never coming. Merkulov, again, both him and Lysol, what do they got? One game, with the big club. Patras, they're finally giving a bit of a shot to lately. And hopefully that kid keeps scoring and he doesn't make any mistakes because we know when young players make mistakes on the Bruins, they pay the price. But when veterans like Pasta and Marchand give the puck away at will, they don't pay any price whatsoever.
No, I completely. It feels like it's and you would hope that it's the opposite. Like when the young guys are doing well, they get rewarded. But I guarantee you, Poitras is going to be down to still 12, 13 minutes a game. And you mentioned moving Zaka off a center, but Poitras is getting almost no time at center from like a faceoff standpoint. That last game, he had those 2 assists. He only had 1 faceoff. He won it, and then game before that, the Jets, he had 4 faceoffs. He went 2 for 2. I mean, two wins, 2 losses. I mean, I don't know how much actual center development Poitras is getting from a lot of these games because the lion's share of these faceoffs are going to pretty much everybody else. Frederick's getting 9 faceoffs. Go ahead.
But you know what, Matt? You know what? If they're gonna move Patras to wing and keep him with Zaka and Pasta, I'm all for that. At least give that kid some talent around him. I'm done with the Frederick and the fourth line guys. I don't, I just don't want to see that anymore. That's not going to get Poitras anywhere playing with, grinding wingers. It's just not. He's not going to. He needs to play with skilled players to bring out his skill. And Geeky's not that. Frederick's not that. These other those fourth line ragtag tough, grinding players.
Wallstrom.
You know, Fantastic. Yep. You need those guys, but you need them on your fourth line. You don't need young, promising forwards to be paired up with them. They're not going to get anything out of it. So if Poitras is kicked out of center, I'm fine with it if he's playing on a line with Zaka and Pasta.
Yep. No, I agree. I think as long as he's getting some some because I'm tired of hearing like, oh, look what he did with this guy, look what he did with that guy. Because yeah, he does it, but then he goes 2 or 3 games with almost getting nothing for himself. And I hope that's not an indictment on him from the coaches that he can't reliably generate points when he's with Frederick and these guys. We'll see what happens.
I mean, Matt, when Pasta hits a little slump and he goes 3 games without a point, do they move Pasta to the third line? They move. No, they don't. Like this kid, all right, he got two assists, 2 nice assists to Pasta in the last game. Keep him up and give him a chance. Let him know that. Say, listen, we want you playing fast, confident, smooth. You're staying with these 2 talented guys for a while, okay? If it does, 5 games, 10 games go by and it's not working out, we might move you. But you know what? That's your spot. You're staying there. We want you playing loose, fast, and confident. That's what they should do with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So 34 minutes in, Dad, do you want to move on to the Patriots, touch on a couple things?
Yeah, we can move on to the Pats.
All right. So we won't talk too much Pats. I mean, again, there's so much we have so much. I guess it's not as fun as it could be. If we had the first overall pick, it'd be super fun. We'll have a ton of draft talk in the combine. We're gonna have a ton of talk there. But Super Bowl's coming up. Oh, we got Jeff Unknown. I know we were talking about the Bruins, but then I missed the Doncic conversation. I'm curious your thoughts on that. We did talk about that at the start, Jeff Unknown, but for you, we want 100% touch on it again. My dad said it was the most perplexing trade in NBA history, and I completely agree with him.
Worst.
I was worst.
Yeah.
So I don't know about worst, but I will say it's the most perplexing, possibly the worst when you consider all the implications from a franchise reputation, from the long-term impact for the Mavericks. Maybe the worst considering the talent it's getting moved. But Jeff, I know, and I'm curious where you were and how you felt when you first heard that news. I was shocked. I was trying to go to sleep. I had to wake up the next day, and I got this freaking news. It was like coffee hit me. I'm trying to explain to my wife how big of a deal this is because I
Yeah,
was wired. I'm like,
yeah.
how do you? I mean, think about it. How would you have felt that if after that Golden State Warriors loss in the finals, if we traded Tatum then that offseason?
And Jeff, when I say worst in possibly sports history, I'm talking about I have the benefit of hindsight, right? I'm talking about initial reaction to the
Oh
trade
yeah,
immediately after it's over. I'm not talking about, you know, a worse trade than that was the trade that the Celtics in Brooklyn made.
yeah.
When I mean, uh, that's ultimately going to probably prove to be a worse trade than this one because the Celtics ended up getting Tatum and Brown from that trade. So,
Yeah.
what a horrible trade by Brooklyn. But I'm talking about initial. But when that trade was made, nobody faulted Brooklyn because at the time they had a young Brook Lopez. They
Darren
had
Williams. Darren
yep,
Williams.
they had they had him, and it was even a third start. With Kevin Garnett and Pierce, it made them
It was
like
like
a
Joe Johnson.
formidable. Yes, Joe Johnson, a formidable starting five that everyone thought was going to contend for a title. So at the time, everyone's like, who won the trade? I don't know. I think Brooklyn won it. I think the Celtics won it. It was like a debate. This is like nobody thinks this is a good trade for Dallas. Nobody. There is like nobody on the planet who thinks this is a good trade for Dallas. It's just that's why I say initially it's the worst trade in NBA history. Because good luck finding someone that's going to back Dallas on it.
Yeah, and they didn't even shop the guy. He's probably one of the most valuable
Nope.
players in the world, and they did not even shop him. I
Matt,
mean,
what was the first thing I said to you when you dropped that insane text to me that trade went down? Was not one of the first texts I sent was, okay, you want to trade him? Fine. How do you not get a better deal than that? How do you not find a better
yeah,
package than that? With these teams with all these draft picks, there's so many teams that are loaded with first round picks. There's so many teams that they're not ready to contend, but they're loaded with young talent. Like I just don't get it. You couldn't get Anthony Davis if you're gonna give up Luka. You can't get SAG
yeah.
Shane Gillis.
Shea
You
Gildress.
can't get
Yep.
him. I mean, if you're gonna unload Luka, you can't get one of the two Orlando kids, the Wagner or I
Yeah.
can never pronounce the other's name.
Bankero. I
I
mean,
mean,
Cade Cunningham. Like,
any of them are better than a 31-year-old busted up Anthony Davis who's never even really been a top 5 player in the league. Like any of them. And it's like, wow, what are we doing here? And
yeah,
the crazy thing is, you know, a lot of those teams I just mentioned have a lot of extra first round picks from
all
past
their first
trades,
round picks.
and
Yeah.
they end up with one first round pick from the Lakers out of it. It's so mind boggling, bad.
There's some ninth grader, sitting like at home right now,
Yeah,
who's gonna be a part of this trade. This is 2029. Like this kid's like
yeah,
14 years old, and they traded for a 14-year-old and
yeah.
Anthony Davis. That's what Dallas Mavericks got for
Davis is going
one
to be
of.
way out of the league. Kyrie Irving's going to be way out of the league when this kid comes around.
I mean, shout out to Rob Pelinka, right? Because you just said I heard Alice said something about Doncic's conditioning. What a terrible reason to trade the guy. Thanks for revisiting
Yeah.
this. Jeff, this podcast is almost exclusively for you. This is written and dedicated to Jeff Unknown, every single one, because you're here, man. So we appreciate you. Um, I think that was one of the crazy things. Somebody came out, an old NBA
We
player,
touched on that.
yeah, I know, like
Yeah,
they just because the Nico guy, the GM, came out and he said specifically that Luka Doncic's conditioning and his inability to stay in shape. So they traded him and then called him fat in the same day. That's pretty much what happened. And that wasn't like a report that his conditioning was a problem. That was a direct quote from the GM calling him fat. I I cannot believe Rob Pelinka convinced this guy that this was a good choice. And I don't know how in hindsight, he's not even a little bit like, wait a second. If everyone, if one guy calls you an idiot if one guy calls you a horse, ignore him. If two guys call you a horse, buy a saddle, right? Everyone's calling this guy a freaking horse. Like everyone's saying this is ridiculous. So, Jeff, I mean, Jeff, does this rank for you, or where does this rank from you when it comes to trades that your initial reaction is like that is horrible. That is a horrible trade. And I think,
And
like my
Jeff,
dad
what I
said,
said,
that's number one for me. Go ahead, Dad.
what I was the point I was making earlier is the kid's 25. I mean, what all it takes is one off season where he's like, everyone's right. I got to get in shape. I got to hire a dietitian. I got to put the work in, and he shows up in training camp like ripped. How good is that kid going to be if that day ever comes? I mean, it's not like I get it. He's a defensive liability. He misses some games here and there, probably because he's got the extra weight on. But ultimately, it doesn't affect his offensive numbers. That guy is a scoring machine, and he really can't be stopped. He gets slowed down some games, but that guy gets his 30 almost every damn game. And you
Oh
just
yeah,
gave him away at 25 years old. It's not like he's a 30-year-old guy who is like, well, if him getting in shape hasn't happened by now, it's never going to happen. He's 25. So does it
and he's
happen
clutch.
now? Probably not. He is clutch. Does it happen next year? Maybe not even next year. But at some point when he hasn't won a championship and he's tired of getting toasted by these guys who are in much better shape and flying by him, that's all it takes. One off season where he's like enough. And he just goes on a stricter diet, hits the gym a little more, and boom, now you got a real force in the league. And Dallas just gave up on him.
Yeah, and before we read this, I think one of the other things I heard was that Doncic is currently rehabbing, and people heard that around the league that basically the Dallas Mavericks were like, get into the facility and start running laps, get your conditioning up, whatever. And Doncic told them no, and then this GM was like, well, I'll show you who's in charge, and then freaking shipped Luka Doncic out the door. So, Dad, I don't remember this trade. Do you remember the Gretzky to LA trade?
Yeah, I mean, it was just they basically traded what would probably be the equivalent to a second scoring line, three players from what I remember, three forwards for Gretzky, and it just it's very similar to like the Joe Thornton trade, the Sagan trade. You know, you trade the best guy, and it's so rare you get equal value. And yeah, he's right. They didn't get equal value for Gretzky, that's for sure. Just like the Bruins didn't get it for Thornton, for Sagan.
Come
So
on.
and
Louis
and
Erickson was the real deal for
Dallas, yeah, and Dallas didn't get equal value for Luka. So yeah, it's. I think this one's more insane though, Jeff. Actually, I don't know. At least at the time, LA, Edmonton got some young, promising players. They ended up only being like kind of second line level players, which aren't bums, better than third line players. But I forget those guys' names, but I just remember they were pretty good. They weren't great. They were never anything great. And
yeah.
this one, Dallas has a 2-year window. That's about it because Irving and Davis are both already old. So we'll see. They better win that damn championship. And Clay Tom, how many years has he signed for, Matt? I don't even know what. And he's old and he's busted up. He's never been the same player too. So
Oh,
you know that team
well,
that team
I
better do
just looked.
something in the next 2 years. Yeah.
Kyrie has a player option next year. He's absolutely
Oh,
gone.
jeez.
There's
He's
there's
out.
there's no chance he's staying. Clay Thompson, he's pretty much stuck there until 2028. They signed him to a 3-year, 50
Okay.
million contract, so he has 2 more years. But that guy's known to
He's
mail
not
it
even a
in.
third guy anymore. He's more like a fourth guy. You need
I love
him.
the
You
old
need Clay Thompson to be like your fourth guy now if you want to win a championship.
I love the old Bulls shirt, by the way. Yep, that's my wife made it, custom made, one of
Courtesy of
one.
my little girl. Lover. Yep.
Yeah, I've been rock climbing, and I was wearing that shirt while I rock climbed, and I had like a teenager come up to me. He's like, "What do you do for work?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "What do you do for work?" I'm like, "Uh." I do IT stuff. And he's like, I thought you do YouTube. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, I see you wear a shirt. I'm like, I wish I did YouTube for work, but no, no
Yeah,
dice there. I was like, we're a super small podcast. So yeah, no. Overall, Jeff, one of the biggest sports news headlines of
yeah.
my lifetime. We'll see how it all fleshes out. I know Kyrie didn't play yesterday. The Mavs got their doors blown off last night. Gave up 50 points in the first quarter. After their GM talked about defense, defense, defense. Jason Kidd looked like he was at a press conference who announced that his dog was shot in front of him. And when he was talking about this, he looked absolutely
Mm.
depressed. I don't blame him as a coach, but good luck getting Kyrie to play any games. Oh, Klay Thompson last night, 18 minutes, 1 for 10, 0 for
Oh,
6, minus 24 against the Cavaliers. That team is absolutely fried. I don't care who Anthony Davis comes in as, if he comes in his prime or not. That team is cooked mentally. The
we
scouts
got
are not
we
doing
got
their
my
job.
buddy Frank sounding
Yeah.
like a little bit like a conspiracy theorist here. I like
The
that.
scouts are not doing their job, or they are placing multiple teams. The trades lately have been horrible. What do you got for Frank on that, Ted?
I mean, you even said it yourself. It feels like there could be some behind the scenes conspiracies planning going on with this LA Lakers trade, with Dallas owner wanting a team in Vegas bad and hoping to move it. It's like, did he do Silva and the Lakers a favor? Because that, next to those two are the big marquee franchises in the Knicks. Like that's the big three in the NBA: the Celtics, Knicks, Lakers. And was this deal done with a backdoor handshake of, hey, maybe
Oh,
we get that Dallas team in Las Vegas if you let the Lakers get Luka?
Frank, if you had like a pile of dirt in your backyard and you posted on Facebook Marketplace to someone to come pick it up, you would have done more diligence in getting rid of that pile of dirt than the GM for the Mavericks did with getting rid of Luka Doncic. Because at that point, you've at least
Unreal.
offered it to more people. The silent there was no bidders. The silent bid, and he absolutely let Frank Palinka, the GM for the Lakers, school him. Palinka
No.
convinced the Mavericks GM that he had damaged goods, and almost like he was
Matt, the
taking on a
Maver
bad
no, no, no,
contract.
no. The Mavericks called the Lakers about Anthony Davis and said,
Yeah,
we'll give you Luka. The Lakers didn't even call the Mavericks asking if they could get Luka. Dallas called them and said, "Hey, what do you think if we give you Luka about giving us Anthony Davis?" Palenka probably dropped his phone and shattered it and had to call him back from another phone.
yeah,
They didn't
yeah,
even call other teams. They did it because let me tell you, if they put the word out there, Dallas, that hey, we're willing to give up Luka if the price is right, the phone would have caught fire for that GM from all the
yep,
phone calls. The Celtics probably would have called him.
yeah. Jalen
Everyone
Brown
would
might
have
have been
called
out
him.
of the door. Jalen Brown might have been on the
You
way to
and you
freaking Dallas Mavericks.
You heard nothing. So that was just dumb on their part. So
Yeah,
I don't know,
and
man. Should
and
we get in some Super Bowl talk?
yeah, and real quick, Frank, one more anecdote on that. I know you were talking about this. Danny Ainge and the Jazz were involved in that. So Danny Ainge did not know that the deal that he was getting involved in was actually moving Luka Doncic. I don't know if you saw
Wow.
that. So Danny Ainge, like that was so tight-lipped, and it's very rare nowadays because everything gets out. Everything gets out. That had to be a one-to-one conversation that had no leaks whatsoever. Everything else is usually dropped by Shams or somebody in advance. Backdoor deals, absolutely. Yeah, Frank. So it's a weird
Yeah,
business.
you could
And
probably make a better case that the Jazz could have offered a better package with Sexton and who's the other guy
marketed.
that's good? Marketing and like maybe one other key player. That might be in some draft picks. That might be a better deal than getting an old brittle Anthony Davis. But
The
anyway,
Jazz have like 10 first round picks because they got, I think, 5 or 6 for Rudy Gobert. I
yeah,
don't, and I think they traded Donovan Mitchell too. I don't know how many first round picks the Jazz have, but they have a ton of first round picks. So, Frank,
so
thanks for tuning
bizarre.
in. It's, I think one of the first times I've seen you in here. I don't know your thoughts on the Super Bowl. We can touch on that briefly. Speaking of backdoor deals, I mean, there's a lot of like, okay, don't embarrass yourself as a Patriots fan here, right? Don't seem like a sore loser. I'm curious, what's
Yeah.
the old Bulls take on this Kansas City Chiefs team and the flags they get? Do you put any stock into the nonsense, or do you think there's actually some blood in the water here?
Oh, I think there's a little something to it. A lot of Patriots used to get this heat. Oh, Brady gets all the calls, Patriots get all the calls. Well, first of all, it seems like that because the Patriots were always in big games, constantly. And when you play in more big games than everyone else and the spotlight's on you, that's just you're gonna get that. That's the position the Kansas City Chiefs are in. They're constantly in big games. So the spotlight's on them more. People are watching them more, and it feels like they get more flags than anyone else. With that being said, it does feel like, man, boy, do they get the benefit of the doubt on these calls. And the good thing is there's so much attention on it. It's kind of like the crafts being cheap. There's so much attention on it. I'd be shocked if this Super Bowl featured a refereed game where the Chiefs are getting all the calls and Philadelphia is not, and it doesn't seem fair. Because what that's really going to do is stoke the fire. That is just, I mean, this is the world's biggest stage. No one watches this game. There's no other game
Yep.
in the world that's going to be televised more than this. And if it looks bad from a refereeing standpoint, all those people that are like, see, I told you, where there's smoke, there's fire. We all told you. This is fixed. This league is fixed. They want the Chiefs to win. If there's any egregious calls in this game favoring the Chiefs, especially if there's multiple ones
Yep.
and it's clear it helped them win this game, oh, does the NFL have a potential crap show on their hands?
Yeah, and I know you talked about Brady, right, in the comparison. So here we are. Brady and Mahomes, 8 total combined, eight total each, roughing the passer calls in the playoffs. 48 games for Brady to accumulate those 8, 20 for Patrick Mahomes. I don't know. Maybe I'm a biased Brady, fan.
The first 7 years of Brady's career, they didn't protect the quarterbacks like they do now. So it's a
Yeah.
little skewed, but no, that's still out of whack. That's still out of whack. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and the amount of times we got burned by Patrick Mahomes, him and Josh Allen came from the same school of this weird like get out of bounds late, get a nice little call for yourself. No, Frank, something's up. It's if there's too much coincidence with that team. Um, top to bottom, I don't know how the league does not try and overcompensate the other way at some point.
Yeah.
It's honestly not even so much about they get a ton of calls, but they also don't get a ton against them, right? And that's what throws me off because
Mm.
every team I think has some where they get screwed, and I don't recall the Chiefs getting screwed. That drop pass that got called to catch inside the 10-yard line was pretty bad against the Bills. Yeah,
Mm.
against the and then how about the other time? It was really funny when I think it was a regular season game of the Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and Travis Kelsey threw the ball backwards or something like that, or he caught the ball backwards. I don't know, but Patrick Mahomes after the game was like the refs got involved in what could have been the greatest play in NFL's history, and he's like the most BS call. They can't even take a bad reffing situation. Um, I can't stand the Kansas City Chiefs. They are so incredibly unlikable. I see those stats, but forget the stats. Video shows the facts. Look at the refs' placement around the line during the fouls.
Mm.
If you don't see it, it didn't happen. First downs is roughing the passer. Zoom out on the replays and look where the refs are at. Frank, I
That
like it.
first down non-call was a man, did that take some heat? Because first of all, the spot was bad on after the third down. He should have had the first down on that third down run. It all showed that his knees weren't down. The ball was over the first down marker. The spot was a half a yard short of the one it was supposed to be. So then they ran it on fourth down. And again, do you see a football plain and clear over the first down marker? You don't because of the pile of players, but common sense told you
The ball's
Josh
right
Allen
here.
had the ball
Yeah.
here on his chest, and there was a view of Josh Allen's chest over the first down line. You
Yeah.
couldn't see the ball, but you saw Josh Allen where the ball would be. Common sense would have told you, no, he got the first down. And once again, the Chiefs come out on top with the call. Nope, no bueno. Buffalo, sorry. And that was a huge play. That was the Bills about to go down by 4. Was that the scenario where if they or down by 3, I think. So
Yeah.
the Bills, if they get that, they're already almost in field goal range. I think they're one first down away from being in field goal range to tie it. Maybe they go on for a touchdown, take the lead, and win the game. We'll
Yep.
never know, though, thanks to that awful spot on third down and them not reversing that fourth down one.
Yeah. Jeff Unknown, I saw a hilarious meme that was posted saying, breaking news, the Bills get called for roughing the passer 1 week before the game against the Chiefs. I, I'm
Yeah.
really curious how the Super Bowl goes. Sadly, I'm going to be rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles. I know that sounds like a salty fan. It is what it is. I don't want this Chiefs team to win. Um,
Guys
I
too.
think that
Yep.
this Eagles team's pretty likable, right? Saquon Barkley, their offensive line is great. It seems like when they win clean games. I don't really like the tush push garbage, but otherwise, I mean, Saquon Barkley is a likable dude, and he's pretty special. I'm hopeful that this Eagles team can find a way to not get called for little ticky tacky penalties, and I'm really hoping the refs don't get involved too much because from a fan standpoint, it's been happening a lot in the NBA. But you get these refs that just think it's all about them, and it becomes a show where we're just watching this guy in stripes at the 50-yard line talk to us, and it's like just let these guys play. And if they do, I really like this Eagles team. I think the Eagles beat this Chiefs team. I don't think the Chiefs offense is really what it used to be, and I think this Eagles defense is pretty legit. We'll see. I think the big wild card is going to be that Jalen Carter kid in the middle of the Eagles line. He's always had kind of those character issues. It's one of the reasons why he dropped so much. Hopefully he does not kind of catch a, rough in the passer call in this game because that would be pretty rough. Correct. The first conversion was not going to happen. If it was 5 yards over the line, it would have been a holding call. Yeah. Frank,
Yeah.
they were ready. They were ready. And like you said, that wasn't
Yep.
happening either way. And like the Bills had a couple. I think the first rough in the passer call that they got from Mahomes, they had stopped him on third down. The drive
Oh,
was
it
over,
was so bad. Those
and
two calls.
he didn't even touch his face at all, and they called
No,
rough in the
there was
passer on
two
it.
of them
Yeah,
where everybody, the announcers and Gene Skell, whatever his name is, they brought in the
Derek
ref.
Taylor.
They're like, "Oh, that's a shame because those are not roughing the passer, either one of those." And you got two of them in one game. So, I can't imagine the NFL on the Super Bowl stage will allow that to happen. Like, I mean, we'll see. I mean, God help them, the NFL, if the Chiefs get a call in their favor that 100% helps them win the game. Because man, the scrutiny that league will be under for a long time will be relentless. And there could be an investigation at some point. It's just they can't have it happen. I you know, they just need to make sure there's nothing egregious. They just need to have the referees call it like they see it. If they're not sure, don't call it. If you're not 100% sure that Patrick Mahomes got hit in the helmet, don't call it.
Yeah,
If it
or
looked like he
or let
did,
New York
if
do
he
it.
looked like he did, but you're not positive, don't call it. It's as simple as that. Because one of those rough in the passer calls that I saw in real time, it looked like it to me. I'm like, oh, looked like he might have gotten helmet to helmet hit there on Mahomes. And then the replay, but I wasn't sure. I was like, maybe it looked like that. And then they show the replay. Nope, never hit him in the head. And it's like, oh, you can't. So they better be careful. They better not call anything unless they're 100% sure it happened in real time, right in front of their eyes, and the camera's going to pick up on it.
Yep. Like Jeff Unknown, he's here. This Super Bowl's here, and he's saying go Eagles. And I'm concerned about Hurts' health. I mean, 2 weeks off is pretty nice. That knee didn't seem too
Yep.
bad in his last game. We'll see how that goes. And I think one of the things that I'd be very curious about is do we see like a play blown dead where Mahomes is rushing and does his little fake slide garbage, right? Because the refs have said they're going to be looking out for that. Do we see them kind of whistle off a play and Mahomes get pissed because he felt like he wasn't actually giving himself up because he didn't slide, or how they approach that? It's just like flopping in the NBA. You can't do that stuff.
Yeah. That's a real easy call, Matt. It's simple. Mahomes slides late, you just don't call anything. You can even get on the loudspeaker and go, the quarterback didn't give the defender ample time in to lay
Yeah.
off, so he slid too late.
Yeah, and you
No
could
penalty.
throw the flag and then pick it up. You 100% could do that. Just like with pass interference. If the ball's
Yeah.
not reasonably catchable, you can pick that up. Vegas, baby. It's all about the money across country. We'll never know the truth. There's a disclaimer in the small print that says it's for entertainment only. That's true. It's a WWE prank. We watched the
And Frank, hopefully, if there is something going on behind the scenes, hopefully it's just the NFL wanted the Chiefs in the Super Bowl for ratings purposes and the
3
story
in a
of
row.
repeating and all that, Taylor Swift and all that. But hopefully they're smart enough to go, okay, we got our Chiefs here. We're not giving them any more help. No more help for those guys. They're gonna have to actually earn it.
Yeah. They're gonna have Taylor Swift up on the podium or something like that. But
They might as well have her in the huddle.
Yeah. So an hour and 1 minute. Frank, it was really nice, that you caught the podcast. Hopefully you're back next Monday. We'll be here next Monday, post NBA trade deadline. We're gonna, I think, have a lot of. We'll see. I mean, this was supposed to be a boring trade deadline, and it's shaping up to be one of the most electric, ones in the NBA history. So we'll see if any more movement, what we think about that for the Boston Celtics, anything else that comes up, and we'll talk about the Super Bowl again. Hopefully go ahead.
And Frank, I know you're a big shot at that big Ford dealership. If you want us to give that place a shout out, just go to YouTube, like our channel, make a comment in there, and just tell me what the name of the place is, and we'll announce it at the beginning of next week's show. Obviously, free of charge.
Yeah, all it takes is if you just and honestly, it'd be nice if you go comment, even if you don't want to. It is what it is. But yeah, let us know and we'll give you a shout out. It's for fun. Makes us feel official, when we do sponsors, even if we aren't actually sponsored. Thanks, guys. Another great show. I'll do my best. Good to see you both. Thanks, Frank, for your time. Go Eagles. I hope everybody has a good rest of their week. Bye-bye.
See you, Jeff. Good to have you.